And we were working with a large food company. And we were helping them create a supply chain strategy. And we made a recommendation to them that they create a supply chain organization. And that's a pretty typical recommendation that we make. And so they accepted the recommendation, and then they asked me, well, Dr. Frizzell, would you be willing to facilitate the first meeting? Well, I'm from the South. I mean, you can't recommend that there be a group of people and then say, no, I'm not willing to meet with those people. I'll say, of course, I'd be happy to facilitate that meeting. So the meeting started at, it was, I think, a Thursday morning at 8 in the morning. And it went well for about 6 or 7 minutes. And it kind of broke down after that. And it started to sound something like our minivan sounds about 5 hours into a trip. It was he said, she said, he touched, okay? And these are 6-figure executives, and they're going at it like this. And I'm thinking, well, I'm really doing a bad job facilitating this meeting. I'm going to have to give my consulting fees back to them because I'm doing such a bad job. To be honest with you, I would have been delighted to give the fees back, if I could just get out of this meeting. But I couldn't do that, and this went on for about an hour. By the grace of God, there was a break at 9 in the morning, 9 o'clock. So I remember getting out of the thing going, and Lord, what am I doing wrong that I can't get these people to work together? Or Lord, what's wrong with these people, that they can't get along even for an hour? And then it dawned on me what the issue was. Because we had done intros, that morning. There were 8 people there that day. So we had the head of manufacturing, we had the head of transportation, we had the head of warehousing, we had the head of materials management, we had somebody from finance, somebody from marketing, somebody from IT, and the nephew of the chairman of the board. Okay? That's who was there. None of which had ever worked for another company. And here's the kicker. None of which had ever worked outside the function they were in. And the tenure, is 8, 10, 12 years. So if this gray-headed guy from Georgia Tech shows up and he starts talking about logistics and you've worked in that warehouse all your life, what do you think he's talking about? Well, probably warehousing, because that's the only window you have ever seen the world through. And the same thing in transportation, and the same thing in IT, and the same thing in manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. So when I went back in the room, I called timeout. I'm a sports guy. So I said, okay, guys, timeout. We're not going to have a discussion anymore. And they're like, oh, my goodness. So we're going to have a lecture for an hour about what logistics is. From that point on, every time we start a consulting project in this, we begin it with training. All the work we did with Honda began with a huge training program on what supply chain logistics is. The group down at Disney, they've all been through all of these courses. When we took BP through this, Hallmark cards. So we just started with that foundation.